And welcome back to the Gazy Fitness channel. We've got Brando here. You probably might see some of the other ones. We're going to do this a little bit differently today. You always hear me spouting off about stuff and ranting off, and haven't really had a chance to give myself a proper introduction so you can see the background that I have in fitness. So today, joining me on the flip side of the camera, we've got Coach Antonella from Gazy Fitness. She is going to assume the role of interviewer today. She's interviewing me about my involvement in fitness. Now, this is not pre-rehearsed. I told her I didn't want to know what the questions were. I just wanted to keep them raw and real and share this with you. No edits. And as you can see, puppies. Let her rip. Pass it off to Coach A.
All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be giving Coach D here some questions just based on his experience in fitness and bodybuilding, just to get to know him a little bit better. So here we go. What first sparked your interest in fitness and weightlifting, and how did you get started?
Spark. In the background there, we've got Brimley the parrot, so he might chime in there. Sparked my interest in fitness. This is an easy one to remember because I remember it kind of still like it was yesterday. I'm 55 years old now, and I remember back when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. My parents, as a stocking stuffer, gave me a paperback version of the Guinness Book of World Records. And I was going through it, and I saw a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I had never seen him before. So you can imagine back in that times, that would have been about mid-70s or so. So there was no internet. You know, I was a young kid. You know, I wasn't into bodybuilding or fitness. I was just so young. And the picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger with the caption of "World's Most Developed Physique" just really captivated me. I was amazed by the level of physical development that Arnold had. It wasn't at that time that it sparked the interest. I think that just kind of planted the seed in my brain because I was so young. It was like, okay, what am I going to do with this, right? But then as I got a little bit older, moving on to probably about how old are you in grade 8? Probably
Is that 13?
around 12. Yeah, I think it was probably around 12. You know, for the boys, that's when, you know, the interest in the girls starts to surface a little bit. And at that point, I had always been a chubby kid and very self-conscious about my appearance and the way I looked, and girls weren't terribly interested in me. And I remember a friend of mine that I grew up with, shout out to Greg, if you're watching this, Greg, changed my life forever. Greg had just fantastic genetics. He was just one of these guys born with the six-pack abs, good looks, nice white teeth, good charisma, good energy. And I used to note all the girls who were interested in him, taking second looks at him. And, you know, Greg was dating, you know, before a lot of us were of his friends. And Greg had joined a local gym in our town. And I thought, you know what? I wanted to try to emulate Greg, and having that seed of Arnold kind of planted in there, that spurred off the fitness passion from that point on. I was, like I said, about from grade 9, so I'd be 13 or so, right up until now. So well over 40 years of avid fitness passion.
Very neat. So it was Arnold.
Arnold and Greg.
And Greg. Arnold and Greg.
Greg and Arnold.
Okay, next question. Can you tell us about your first gym experience? What was the atmosphere like back then compared to now?
My first gym experience, I remember it because it was like a block away from my high school. And after high school, I used to walk up there. And my first one was, I remember the smell. At that point, I walked into the place. It was winter. And I remember it was winter because all the windows were like condensation. You couldn't see out, you couldn't see in. All the front windows along the gym were all glass, but you couldn't see. And I just remember being intimidated because you step into this place and there's all these, here's this, kind of chubby, awkward grade 9 that really doesn't know one end up from the other when it comes to fitness. And then you step into this iron atmosphere and all the equipment, all the weights, all the people working out. I just found it very overwhelming and very intimidating. But I knew that I would have to kind of overcome that awkwardness or fear, if you will, in order to kind of proceed with it. And that's what I remember. It still smelled. Gyms smell better nowadays. For some reason, back in the 70s and 80s, gyms kind of smelled like gyms for some reason. I don't know. Weird.
Over the years, what are some of the most significant changes you've seen in the fitness industry?
Oh, God. Where do we start with that? That's a good one. Changes in the fitness industry. Well, back in the day, there was not a lot of exposure. Like gyms and the people in gyms, bodybuilders and what have you, were kind of like a cult-like following because there was no great dissemination of information anywhere. Like I said, no internet. It was never really on television that I ever saw. Movies, I think Arnold was getting pretty big at that point. So Arnold was like the iconic role model of bodybuilding because he was the one that people would be able to relate to. People like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sylvester Stallone or a couple others. So how did the gym culture change? Well, over the years, greater exposure to the masses. So people became more and more involved. Regular people. So back then it was just kind of your diehards in, some of the hardcore gyms. So it opened it up to the masses. And then when the internet came along, and now you could see these people exercising and learn about their personalities. Because before it was, the only way you would learn about it is by picking up magazines, because the magazine culture then was just massive. Like I was so engrossed in the topic, and it's something that I was just always passionate with, that I used to know the release dates of all the fitness and bodybuilding magazines to the date. And because I didn't have a driver's license, I was 13. On every one of those dates, I used to walk 15 or 20 minutes to the local variety store, pick up whatever latest magazine was available on that day, and just go home and literally devour it from cover to cover. Like I read everything. I read the advertisements, the classified ads, all the articles. And that's the only real way at that point in time that we could, learn about fitness and nutrition. Nowadays it's at our fingertips. We're overwhelmed by it almost. So that has really switched the tide over from just being such a closely valued topic into one that's just, absolutely massive. One aspect of it, there's so many aspects of what's changed. The equipment has changed. We have access to every angle and every notion and potion. Supplement industry has just completely evolved. The products that were available back in the day tasted like garbage, worked like garbage, but we bought them anyways because the hype was just so huge.
I'm glad you brought up supplement because that's the next question I have for you. So just moving on, if you could choose one supplement to take for the rest of your life, which one would it be and why?
One for the rest of my life.
Just one.
God, because I take so many to try to narrow it down to just one.
You can do it.
So I got to factor in what would be the overall goal behind just one. Well, it would probably be just general health, well-being, something that's encompassing of all. Creatine monohydrate comes to mind because it's just one of those products. A multivitamin mineral comes to mind.
Why would you select creatine? Why is that number
Just
one?
because it's so effective at doing what it does in helping with your strength and energy and muscle fullness and cognitive abilities, and it's just an all-encompassing product. But I would say the number one product is one that Well, you and I have just recently been introduced. Oh, those are the puppies,
Those
by
are
the
the
way.
puppies. But they can't see them from this angle.
So we can't see the puppies. There's puppies.
There's puppies.
So one product that we've kind of gotten onto is IM8. It's a daily essential. It's not a greens drink. It's actually red, but it's along that lines. It's got everything in it: probiotics, prebiotics, vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, heart health, bone health, joint health, brain health. And, having used all these products like my whole life, and I've got a good eye for kind of what's garbage now and what's not, because I've spent, we probably could have retired 10 years ago with the amount of money I spent on bullshit supplements. But IM8 has been a fantastic one. We first tried it, noticed it right away. Like the energy
Yes.
was noticeable. I just felt a little differently on it. And you always think, is this just my mind playing tricks on me? So you play it out like cautiously, and it's like, no, this actually is a fantastic product. And like anything else, like if I know I'm going to use something and I like it and I enjoy it, you might as well call me Deal Daryl, because I wanted to get a deal on it. It's such a good product, but if you can get it cheaper, hey, what the heck? So I went on their website and I saw that they had an ambassador program. So I basically applied for it, and fortunately enough, they took me on to their ambassador program. We'll put the link in the description if you want to try the product. It's amazing. So yeah, they took me on board and haven't looked back since. It's just an amazing product.
So IM8 would be then
That would be the one.
followed by crazy.
Just yeah, and for people general, just not necessarily crazy OCD about fitness, but it's just a general great overall health product that just encompasses
All-in-one.
everything.
All-in-one.
Yeah.
Okay, great. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have when starting their fitness journey?
Cool. Biggest misconception. See, so many factors involved in that, right? A big misconception is really how hard you have to work and how dedicated, because it's not just a corner of your life. It really encompasses everything you do and how you do it. From going out to social functions and work functions, and allotting that extra time in your day for fitness takes time in your day. You really have to prioritize things and juggle them around and shift priorities in order to, kind of accommodate the meal prep and the workouts and the cardio. And that's even at a fairly basic level. These guys and gals that are into it, like on the professional level, it's literally a full-time job. Like the amount of time that you have to invest into it is crazy. So the misconception, I would say, is time, effort for sure, and also the time and how long it takes to get the results. I think a lot of people have these expectations that, they've spent years getting out of shape, so they're going to be able to get in shape like quickly. And sometimes a lot of the times actually, it gets very discouraging, I'm sure, for people. And not everyone looks at it as a lifelong thing. It's almost like people want to compartmentalize it a bit, and like a Band-Aid solution where it's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get the result that I want, and then I'm good. Not realizing that it's something that you have to commit to over and over and over again, right? So I would say those are some of the big misconceptions.
Okay. What's your number one piece of advice for someone who is just getting started with fitness or weightlifting?
Knowledge of what to do, knowledge of what you're doing. A lot of people, and I'm guilty of that as well, you don't really track or assess the progress to see if what you're doing is actually working. If it is or if it isn't, then you don't necessarily know what it is you're doing. So having the knowledge, and now we have all these products and apps and watches and devices that assist with that. It's so much easier now than it was before. There was no MyFitnessPal and no Apple apps that gave you workouts to follow. Like, you had to create this shit from the ground up with little or no resources, and certainly not the internet, So having access to all that information allows you to learn the tactics and the tricks and, how much food to have. And now, like with YouTube and Chat GPT, those answers and resources are always available for you on whatever goal it is that you want. You want to grow, you want to lose weight, you want to train or perform better. That option on how to do that is there. So, and the second biggest part, and this regardless of just about anything, is consistency. If you're not consistent with what you're doing, you can't expect to get a great result for very long. You have to be consistent and dedicated and motivated, like times where you don't want to do the shit, but you have to anyways. So I would say those are the things that are the most impactful.
Great. How do you think fitness goals should evolve as someone gets older, and how does the approach of training change? Or does it?
Yeah, has it changed?
I guess you can use yourself as an example.
Yeah. Once again, puppies. Maybe we should grab one just so you can. Hey! Now this one is Baron. Say hi, Baron.
Oh,
Okay.
Biscotti wants to come up as well.
And this is Biscotti. Lilac French Bulldog. Yeah. Blue French Bulldog. Very friendly.
Very playful.
Very playful. So what was that question? That was, how changing as you get older.
Yeah.
Well, as we get older, unfortunately our hormones don't respond in the same manner. Bodily functions aren't quite as optimal as they should. Although there are some great advances in that, so you can kind of tackle that to a certain degree. But you don't have the same energy levels. Sometimes you have a lot greater commitments and stuff like that. So trying to focus that time into your day becomes a little bit difficult for some people as they get older. But I would just say overall, you have to modify your training to accommodate your ability. Now, I've been fortunate enough that I can still do most of the stuff that I did before. I'm not nearly as strong, nor what I expected. So you can expect your strength to decline. So your ego takes a bit of a hit psychologically, because you're looking back and thinking, I used to be able to do this and do that. And, generally over time when you're training that hard to that degree, you're going to get some injuries along the way, and it takes longer to recover as you get older. So you have to be mindful, a lot more mindful of like rest and recovery, exercise selection. Like, maybe it's not for you to be doing squat type movements or deadlifts when you're, getting to be in your 50s or whatever. Again, it's such an individual thing that, some people are well able to do that, whereas some people who are now in their 50s can barely bend over and touch their toes. So it's such an individual thing. But for me, I just had to kind of check my ego at the door and realize that, yeah, you can still train very hard and very intensely, but it's not just focused on the amount of weight that you're using. So it's just mindful of your capability.
Okay. What's the most important thing someone should focus on when trying to build muscle or strength, especially in the early phases?
The most important thing in building muscle, well, the premise of all of it is going to be solid, consistent nutrition. If you don't have the building blocks there, the analogy is like building a house. If you don't have the tools for the job, it's not going to be as effective. So having good tools is always a key component. Having good materials, which would be the food, is also very important. Having the consistency of doing it frequently, like if you went to work to build your house once a week, it's going to take a hell of a lot longer than if you're going 4 or 5 times a week to build the house. Same thing. Guys, we're doing something crucially important here. If you're training 4 or 5 times a week, then obviously your house is going to get built a lot quicker. And I think a big thing is, and I still see it now, and it kind of irks me a little bit, is people just going through the motions. It's almost like just to say like they're doing it. You know, you have to be training at a fairly hard intensity to cause the need for your body to adapt, grow stronger, and build muscle. And then you have to have the ability to put it aside and focus on your rest, recovery, and nutrition to make it all work together.
Okay, excellent. Having been in the fitness industry for so long, what do you find is the biggest factor in helping people stay motivated long term?
Results. Nothing more motivating than getting results. And depending on your goal, they can be quicker than some, you know, if you're doing things properly. Nothing's quick about it, but it can be quicker as opposed to doing it for year in and year out and never getting a decent result. That, for the life of me, I can't understand. Like, if that's what's happening to you, you know, you need to change some shit up. Results is the big one, but you have to have the knowledge to get those results. I would say if you're new and you really don't have a clue, hiring a coach is an investment that will save you not only a pile of time, but also a pile of money. It seems kind of retrospective because quality training with a good coach is often not very cheap. But think of how much time you're spending in the gym and how much money that you're spending, and that all has a price tag as well. And if it doesn't come with a result, then it's just going to lead to frustration. You're likely just going to give up because you're not getting the result that you want. Whereas if you're with somebody that was competent in learning from, you know, they're keeping you motivated, they're keeping you driven, you're doing things properly, you're doing it at the proper intensity level, they're giving you a lot of guidance, support, and motivation. So I would say jump in there full-fledged with a coach. People, like, this is also a weird thing. Like, you don't think twice about thousands of dollars of options in your new car. You don't think twice of going out and spending good money on dinner. You don't think twice about the new Apple iPhone 34 that's like $1,500 or something like that. But when it comes time to getting the results for something that's so important to you, like your weight loss or fitness goals, everyone's like, that's so expensive to have a coach. It's like, it's cheaper. It's cheaper than, you know, having all these nice things so we can enjoy them. If you're sick and infirmed or immobile, you're not enjoying anything, you know? So as a long-term investment and a personal recommendation is at least hire a coach for as long as it takes for you to have the confidence to be able to do it yourself.
Okay, last question.
Ooh.
Can you share a turning point in your career or a personal experience that shaped how you approach coaching and fitness?
That would be my own transformation. You know, although I've been into fitness for so long, it was never linear. It was always, you know, I've got this OCD personality type where it's 100% on or 100% off. And the 100% off times meant Daryl got fat, enjoyed too much good food, wallowed in it for a while, and then came right back again to it. So the ability for me to gain or lose weight became very, I don't want to say easy because it's never easy, but I had the knowledge in which to do it with. So I know I could always get back to what it was that I had over and over and over again. So there was a period of time where that hiatus for me on working out was several years. I want to blame work because I had a very crazy, demanding career. But, you know, if I wanted to make it a priority, I would have. Like, you know, what I always tell people is if I gave you $1 million, would you do it? Of course you would, because the incentive is massive. But without a strong incentive there, people are like, whatever, I'll get to it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But the turning point was when I was spent years on the layoff, got fat. I got up to like 320 pounds or something like that. And then I lost all the weight. And I remember how good it felt. It's like you forget just how great it felt to feel mobile and not to have extra you hanging around, and how you look in clothes, and how you look in the mirror. Like, I was always very self-conscious about those aspects, and that really impacted me to share with others. And when people saw that transformation in me, of course they would ask, like, how did you do it? And and that formulated the whole coaching aspect of it, where I would just now start assisting people, and I could see the joy and passion and motivation in the results that they were receiving, which were also motivating for me as well. And that's what still keeps me in the game. And even doing this YouTube stuff, like, it's multi-pronged. I don't just do it to share with you guys, to educate you as best as I can, but it's also motivating for me to rehash this stuff and to keep it fresh and keep it current. That's all you got?
Those are my 10 questions.
Jeez.
Thank you so much for your insight.
You didn't even ask me about judging shows, or you
You want
forgot?
to talk about judging the shows?
Well, yeah, no. I guess people want to see a well-rounded individual, and why is he qualified to have an opinion, right? It's
How long did you judge the fitness shows for?
probably close to 20 years. I started with an organization called the World Natural Sports Organization. And that was back in the time where fitness competitions they weren't a big thing, They obviously, at that point, they had the bigger ones, the Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia and the Miss Olympia. And like, that's a topic for a whole other, like, that whole era was just a fabulous time to go through that part of life in relation to fitness, because just the newness of it and the rawness of it. And I remember having the offer to judge one of these World Natural Sports Organization shows, natural bodybuilding. Back then, there weren't a million categories like there is now, like, the men's physique and the bikini and the wellness. And World Natural Sports developed into a company called FAME, Fitness and Model Expo. And they were kind of pioneers in their own right, because they brought different elements into fitness. It became more entertaining to watch, the routines. And, they also introduced a fitness modeling component to it, which allowed more and more people to get interested in it. And then that developed into working with Paul Dillette from the WBFF, because he had just started his shows. Well, at that point, there was only just the one. We ran into each other at the gym, and it was a good scenario, because Paul had a fantastic vehicle in this show and such a massive following in the fitness and bodybuilding industry. And I had a pretty solid background in being a judge and a head judge of the organization, and also an MC. I had a lot of really cool privileges to work on television, TSN, ESPN, commentating on Fitness Canada and Muscle Mania Canada. So it was a good fit that Paul and I met at that point, because I've been involved in his shows pretty much ever since, in assisting with the judging and the emceeing and what have you. And that also fueled that passion for me, because the more you're surrounded by like-minded people, the more they kind of rub off on you and wear off on you, and you have more people to emulate and more people to inspire and motivate. So that was a huge component of it as well. Well, thanks so much. That was a good little segue.
Thank you.
If you love puppies, subscribe to the channel. Chances are Billy, Baron, Biscotti, and Brando will make another. He heard his name. One more look. Right? Oh,
There he is.
there he is.
Star. He's the real star.
Puppies. Oh, Thanks so much, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Throw us down a comment as to maybe a little bit about your own personal fitness journey and what motivated you. I'm always excited to hear these things. Obviously, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in there. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks to my wife, Coach A, for interviewing me, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for joining. Cheers.